We all know that credit cards are a convenient and powerful financial tool, but we also know that if used incorrectly can lead to a lot of debt and financial stress. That's why in this video, we'll be discussing what credit card habits that you need to stop today, from making minimum payments to impulse buying. We'll explore the most common credit card mistakes people make and the negative impact it can have on your finances. I'll also provide tips and strategies to help you develop better credit card habits and how you can avoid pitfalls of credit card debt. So if you're ready to take control over your finance and develop better credit card habits, let's get started. So the first habit you want to stop today is using credit cards for cash advances. Obviously, the big reason is because of high interest rates and fees. Now, I haven't done a cash advance in a really long time. It's been years since I've done it, and that's when back in the days when I was fiscally irresponsible. But I do remember it being around like 3% every time you took cash out. So correct me if I'm wrong if it changed. So I still think today's like 3%. Regardless of whatever the percentage is, it costs a lot of money to do a cash advance. So obviously the reason you're probably doing it is because you're struggling for cash. You probably ain't got no money, but you want to stay away from this because it's going to cost you money in the long run. It's just going to keep you in debt for a long time. And I know in your head it makes sense to you. It's like, you know what, I need cash and I need to get this money out. And the only thing I have is this credit card. Trust me, stay away from it. Resist it. Resist the urge. All right, find another way to do it. I don't know if you got to do a side hustle or whatever. Ask somebody for money. Don't use credit cards for that because it's just an expensive way to use money. All right, the second habit is using credit cards for an emergency. Now, I know a lot of people like to say, you know what, you should carry a credit card. A lot of people say this, you carry a credit card just in case an emergency. No, that's not what you should be having a credit card for. If you have an emergency, you should have an emergency fund for that emergency, right? I know a lot of people like to tend to use the whole thing, you know, like to say, all right, you know, make sure you have a credit card just in case something happens, you have an emergency. That's not what a credit card is there for. Like if you're someone that's savvy, who's responsible with a credit card, you should be the one using that credit card. And it's a great way, and it's a great alternative than using the debit card. You know, there's protections, there's points, there's cashback rewards, but you shouldn't be just saying, oh, I need to use it just in the case of an emergency, because you can just use a debit card, but you're probably not using a debit card because you probably got no money. So you should not be using a credit card for an emergency. You should have an emergency fund in case of an emergency. Obviously, if you have a medical issue or something you need to be fixed around the house, you can take that cash out. If you're responsible, you know how to manage money, you know how to manage debt. That's what you use a credit card. You use it for daily, purchases like gas, groceries, stuff that you're gonna be using. You're gonna be spending money on anyways. And then using that credit card, you can then get bonuses and cash rewards, and it's a great way to protect your money just in case there's some fraud. But you should not be using it for an emergency. You should have an emergency fund for that. Third habit is not paying off the previous balance, all right? So if you racked up like $500 in a month, and then obviously that credit card balance closes, and then they send you a bill saying, oh, you owe $500, pay off the whole balance, right? A lot of people like to do everything but pay off the balance. They'll pay partial or whatever it is. You want to make sure you pay off that previous balance, because obviously if you don't pay off that previous balance, you're going to be accrue interest, and you're going to pay a lot of interest. And whatever the APR is for that interest is going to be anywhere from 15 to 25%. It's probably higher now because of the feds are raising interest rates, but you're going to be paying so much interest on that debt. You want to make sure you pay off the balance, and a lot of people don't do that. Whatever it is, even if for whatever that balance is, whatever they say the balance is, they're gonna obviously have that minimum payment, and you have that balance. Make sure you pay that balance, because you don't want to pay interest off. You don't want to be paying interest on that debt. So if you don't have the money, if whatever charges that you rack up for that month, you need to make sure you actually have that money in your bank account. Okay, you're racking up $500 on that credit card, you need to make sure you got at least $500 in that bank account. If you don't be using it. All right, so make sure to pay off whatever balance that when that bill comes in, whatever the balance is, make sure you can pay that every month, because you don't want to be paying interest. That's a waste of money, having to pay interest on debt. All right, the next thing is making only minimum payments. Now, I know it sounds like the previous one we just spoke about, but this is a little different, right? Obviously, like if you're not paying off the minimum, if you're not paying off the balance, then you're paying partial, you're paying that minimum balance. But the reason why I say making only minimum payments is because it can take, if you're just paying the minimum payment, obviously you're gonna be accruing interest rate, but it's gonna take you forever to pay off that debt. right? Because we all know that if you're just paying that minimum balance, you're gonna be still using that credit card for other purchases, and it's just gonna be accumulating more debt. So if you're someone that's just paying that minimum balance, it's gonna take, you will pay that, you will pay off that credit. It will take you forever to the day you die before you pay off that credit card debt. So avoid having to pay off just the minimum balance, which is usually what, $25. You shouldn't be doing that. If you can only make minimum payments, like I said, you should not be using that credit card. You shouldn't be using that credit card for anything. All right, you should just use cash. You should be using cash or whatever you got to make payments on. So yes, avoid having to just make minimum payments, because it's going to take you forever, and you're going to incur a bunch of interest charges. You're going to be paying a whole bunch of money for that debt. Now, the last thing is applying for too many credit cards, right? And the reason why applying for too many credit cards is a poor habit that you need to stop today, because it can affect your credit score. Now, I understand that you apply for a credit card, and you say, all right, you may need the money for whatever reason, but there's a lot of negative impacts that it can have. For one, it dings your credit score, right? Not by a lot. Applying for like credit, one or two credit cards, it's gonna probably take like 10 points per application that you file. But for a lot of people, you'd be surprised. People apply for credit cards or some type of debt or loans. They apply for a lot of them, and as you build all that up, it can accumulate. And 10 points may not sound like a lot, but if you do that over time, and the more debt that you apply for, more credit cards that you apply for, you can quickly see 100 points knocked off your credit score at least, right? So a lot of people have the tendency to be like, you know what, I really need the money. I remember I used to do this when I was fiscally irresponsible. I would apply for a whole bunch of debt, apply for loans, credit cards, whatever I can get just to get access to credit. But you would see that on your credit score, because it would show all these inquiries, these hard inquiries on your credit report, and you would see your credit score take a big hit. Another thing is, let's say you're applying for a loan. Lenders are going to look at that and say, okay, why are you applying for so much debt? Why are you applying for so much credit card? Are you someone that's strapped for cash? Do you need money? You seem like a very risky borrower. So you want to stay away from that, because they see that. So if you're looking for a loan, like you say, you want to buy a house, you want to get a car note, they're going to look at your credit score and see all these inquiries, all these credit cards you apply to, and they're going to be like, all right, what's the problem? What's wrong with this person? Are they desperate for money that bad? You know what? He's kind of risky. You know what? We're probably not going to loan this person. And like I said, it'll also affect your credit score. So they'll look at your credit score, and they'll see all these inquiries, and they'll look at all that and say, you know what, this person looks like a risky borrower, so you want to make sure you stay away from them. So in conclusion, if you don't have the money, then you shouldn't be using a credit card in the first place, right? For people that are responsible with credit cards, they use credit cards as a way to protect themselves against fraud, right? Instead of using a debit card, just in case there's somebody just trying to steal money, they'd rather use somebody else's money rather than their own money. Also, you get the cashback rewards, you get the flight miles. These are just bonuses. These are rewards that you get for actually using credit. But if you're not responsible, you shouldn't be doing that. But the people that are using that responsibly, they actually have the money in their account. They actually have the cash, so they use that credit card, and then at the end of the month, they make sure they use that cash and pay off the credit card in full. They pay off that balance, so they're not paying any interest. All right. So like I said, if you don't have the money, don't use a credit card. All right. All these tips that I gave you, these are the people that are responsible with money. If you're someone that's struggling with managing debt, then make sure you look at these habits, and you make sure you stop them today. Because if you continue with these habits, then you're gonna find yourself in financial trouble. You're gonna find yourself in a lot of debt, and it's gonna make living life very expensive in the future. So that's all I got for you guys today. If you got any comments or questions, make sure to leave it down below. Hit the like button, share. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. All right, so you guys take care and have a good one. Later.